Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. It is Friday, November 13th, and this is Career Therapy Live. My name is Martin McGovern, and today we are going to be joined by J.Choi, who is our resident tech guy, and he's going to be talking to me about some of the new, tech hitting the streets from M1 chips. I hope I got that right. I got a thumbs up, all the way to new computers, new iPads. I'm a Mac user, so we're going to be talking about Mac primarily. And, I just thought it'd be fun to bring in some tech conversations to our normal scheduled programming. So stay tuned and let us know what kind of a computer you are watching this on, or phone, or whatever it is that you're consuming this on, iPad, I don't know. And we will see you in just a second.
I'm too old for this. Been around this, broken down for way too long. Left my home for this. Story-eyed, it's no surprise. Things went wrong. What was I thinking, babe? All the mistakes I made.
John, how have you been, brother?
Been good,
Cheers.
living that work from home life.
Damn right? So what kind of a computer are you on today?
So I am on a 2015 MacBook Pro that's starting to feel its age, but still rocking through like a trooper.
Yeah, I think mine's from that era as well, somewhere around there. I think it's I got this computer after I got robbed in Canada. So I lost my iPad mini at the time. I lost my external hard drives. I lost my my older MacBook that had the CD drive in it still. And then I came home, and thankfully insurance paid for everything to get replaced. So yes. I've been riding that insurance wave for quite some time, although I have had to get a screen replaced or something on this thing in the meantime. But it's good to see you this morning. And, one of the reasons for those watching, the reason I brought you on is because when we are thinking about our careers and especially when we're thinking about being creative in our careers, I think looking at technology and staying on top of trends and understanding how to use different things like LinkedIn software and the new things that are being added to it, or different computers and iPads and different things like that. I think it's always good to stay on top of things and be well informed. So I appreciate you joining us today and sharing some of your insights into the tech world. You're much more on it than I am. So thanks for coming in today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's for me, I'm just an Uber nerd, so I can talk specs and tech all day, and it's just an exciting time that it was just a decade ago that the computer industry got shook up. It's like, oh yeah, Apple's joining Intel. This is going to be this huge thing. And for a large majority of time, we've all been rocking the same chips, and everything's hunky-dory. But then all of a sudden, a couple missteps later, at one point, all of our manufacturers like AMD, Apple, they all decided you know what, this isn't really cutting it out for us. Let's do something by ourselves. And so now Apple's starting this new transitional phase that they're predicting takes about 2 years to just abandon Intel, just grab onto the same chips they've been putting in the iPhone, iPad, and get all those juicy benefits from those chips, and just put it in one of the arguably some of the most creative focused tech that we have, which is our iPads and our Macs. So it's just an exciting time to just be part of that transitional period.
It really is. And when I was thinking about it, first of all, I want to know what some of those missteps were, because I don't know if I've been paying attention as closely as maybe the tech world has. I remember when I was younger, I used to be so much more on top of tech. In college, I remember I grew up in a family that was IBM. My dad was a consultant. He was we have IBM computers, and you're never going to get a Mac. And that was just like the thing. I don't know where Macs were at the time. Maybe they weren't quite as user-friendly as they've become. And then I remember going to 6th grade, and in 6th grade, we had the colorful laptops and the colorful all-in-ones, and I was just like, this is the greatest thing on earth. I'm loving every second of this. Learned how to do video editing for the first time, learned like all this cool stuff. I remember I was like editing a Sam Jackson photo at one point in Photoshop, or I don't even know. And he had like one of those backwards like hats on. And so that kind of led me into this world of, in college, I finally got my first Mac, an all-in-one big honker. And I still had this old IBM that kept crashing every time I would try and do, I was in classes for animation and classes for all these different things. And I would try to like export a file, and the whole IBM computer would just totally crash because, well, first of all, I was probably pirating software, and second of all, it did not have the capabilities. I had like a Wacom set up to it, and it was just not handling it. And then I found a way to actually connect both, like my new Mac and my old Windows. And somehow through the internet, I don't think I could even do this today. I had like one keyboard, one mouse, 2 completely separate computers and operating systems with 2 screens, and I could move the mouse back and forth between the two somehow through the magic. So I'm like, how did that nerd now like not even know how to, help my parents update like their remote? Like, I don't know, like, age catches up with you. But I'm excited to dig in here and hear like some of the new trends and some of the things that we should be looking out for when it comes to this transition. Like, what do you think the biggest impact of this chip transition is for a consumer?
So there's definitely a couple like really big improvements that we're hoping to see when all the benchmarks hit the street and all the reviewers hit the street with actual real life testing. But what it should amount to is 2 major benefits, which is a performance gain that we're not seeing from Intel, as they're trying to get to the same level as Qualcomm, as AMD, as Apple. Like, they're trying to do what's known as a die shrink. It's how many transistors or compute units can you put onto a single wafer of silicon and cut that up into as many chips as you need. So the more you can shrink that down, you get more energy efficiency because you're just cramming more stuff that are closer together that can communicate faster with each other. So anytime someone says like, we're on a 14 nanometer, 10 nanometer, 7, 5 nanometer, that's all they mean. They're just trying to shrink as many chips as they can onto a single circle of silicon. So with that, performance gains, we're trying to get there because Intel currently is still only on 10 nanometers. Qualcomm and AMD are on 7 and 5, and Apple is shifted everything to 5. So that's where we're getting there. And the second is energy efficiency. It's because we're not spending as much electricity to get that information between all these little circuits, it should give you a huge boost in energy. In this case, Apple is claiming the MacBook Air gained 6 extra hours of battery life. Like, can you imagine the creative potential? You're on the go on a fanless, mind you. Let's
explain this to people, because I don't know if everyone's following along. I've been watching all the videos you've been
Totally.
sending me, so I'm getting it. But
yeah, so like the whole idea is like a MacBook Air for the longest time, portability is it's its main bread and butter, right? But for a creative professional now using an Apple Silicon based Mac, you now have the ability to edit 4K on a thin and light, completely silent computer and have a predictably long all-day battery life. We don't know exactly like what video editing does to the battery, but we know that if you wanted to watch like a TV show, you have about 17 hours, 18 hours of battery life, which is just like
crazy.
What? Like, we're used to go like, oh yeah, I'll get like 6 to 8 hours of battery on my computer. Like, imagine your creative potential. Inspiration strikes you on the track.
I'm pretty sure my computer is plugged in right now and losing battery. So,
like mine too. Like, it's the nature of the beast. Like, batteries, they deteriorate over time. There's only so many chemicals that they can keep sending back and forth. So eventually, it's going to need replacing. But like, to have those gains is just like.
And those gains without changing the battery. That's the key thing. Like, it's huge gains with the same tech in a way. Like, not the same tech all around, but the same battery tech. So
Yeah.
and so when in the video you sent me, it's like that's like having like Tesla come out with a new battery that's 50% better, like 50% longer than the previous one. That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's like, imagine if we could pair the two technologies together. Like Tesla is doing some great advancements in battery tech to make their Teslas more efficient, make solar walls more efficient. But like if you were to put that in consumer electronics with super energy efficient processors, we could easily get to like days worth of batteries as long as the technologies can get married together. So like the fact that we could get here with just standard battery technology, it's
Well,
crazy.
now here's the question though: are they going to actually get us to that point, or are they just going to keep making it thinner? Because we could have longer battery life if they would just like make it a little bit thicker. But no, I'm just kidding around. So when it comes to like the new releases at Apple, so this is where my fascination is, because I've got this old computer. I'm thinking about upgrading it. We had talked a while back, and I'd actually shared some of what you had told me on the live stream here of like, you know, they did that release, what, was it 6 months ago?
There was a bunch of releases.
Yeah, okay, so there's a bunch of releases. Like, I'm trying to remember when we were chatting last. And like, after we chatted, I actually went backwards in tech. I went back to like an older iPhone. And then the new ones came out, and I was like, damn it, I love squared edges. And so these this is the kind of stuff for me where it's like, you know, I see this new lineup, and immediately, you know, I get that itch, that old college itch to just, you know, upgrade everything, buy everything. Of course, you know, there's definitely a hole that would put into these things aren't cheap. So what are you most excited about? You know, so we've got new chips going and everything. Obviously, the desktops haven't gotten the new chips yet, so that's something we're waiting on. But what are your of the most recent releases? What are you most excited about? Is it the Air? Is it the Pro? Is it the iPad? The new phones? What's got your head buzzing?
Like for me, it's the promise of the future, because like we haven't seen this technology in the professional grade tier. Like yes, the MacBook Pro has a Pro name in it, but the 16-inch that has the dedicated graphics. So like the promise of what they're gonna put in there excites me the most, because that's what I'm waiting for. That's what I want to upgrade to. But I think the MacBook Air is I think it's like flying under the radar for most people, because everyone looks at the price point of the MacBook Pro, and they're like, oh, it has the same chip name, so obviously why not go for the Pro? Or like, why would you ever upgrade to the Pro? Like there's this like conversation that's happening online, and I think it comes down to a fundamental difference. It's like, it's not like the specs that are important, it's how you use that tool. And it's that we hear this axiom in the camera community as well. It's not the camera that makes the photographer, it's the photographer that makes the camera.
It's not the number of pixels, right?
Exactly. So it's like, just do what's best for your budget, do what's best for your actual workflow. Like, do you actually see a benefit from certain XYZ features? No? Then don't worry about it. Just go with the one that makes sense for your workflow.
Like LiDAR on your phone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're doing dramatic computational portrait photographs, or you need to like augment reality things, maybe the LiDAR sensor isn't the compelling feature that you need to spend that extra money on. Maybe you spend that money on like protecting your investments, or you spend that money on like extra storage, because you take a lot of photos, you just don't take those specific types of photos.
Yeah. Well, so let's break that down a little more. So the MacBook Air versus the 13-inch Pro, they're the same body, they're the same build, right?
Roughly the same build. Like the MacBook Air might taper a little bit more, but they're generally roughly 3-pound machines with the 13-inch screen.
And is the biggest difference just like the fan? Is that literally the only difference?
The fan is a huge, definite performance gain, because what that really means is the fan on the Pro can keep the silicon cool enough that if it's going to jump up to the high speed processors, it's going to stay there for longer because it can stay colder. The MacBook Air, it can definitely hit those speeds, but how long it can stay there will probably ramp down, kind of like an iPhone or iPad does when it's overheating, you're playing like a super intensive game or something like that. The back of the iPhone gets toasty. once it cools down, it goes back up to speed.
Right, right. And so when we're thinking about, like, you know how you said, you know, make sure that those are features you're actually going to use, right? Like, what do you think? Let's say I'm just going to use me as a case because I want to buy one. All right, so I sometimes am making and editing videos with, like, podcasts, like it's an hour and a half video or whatever. I've done some editing to it, and I go to hit export, and it sounds like a rocket ship is about to take off, right? Mm-hmm. So when it comes to things at that level of just, I use the internet, I do Zoom calls, I maybe do some video, I maybe do a few other things. Do you think the Air is the way to go then? Can that handle everything that's in that sort of spec?
So I think it definitely can. There's something to kind of consider. It's with all the new advancements in that M1 chip, like, video exporting times should go down because there's a dedicated encoder and decoder. It's a translation from whatever file or footage you shot at to whatever file you're trying to save as. And that, there's been internet videos online that have been showing, like, the iPhone and iPad are beating out professional grade computers, which is, by the way, amazing. That's just like a tangent. It's like, what? But that same technology is coming now to the Mac. It's a dedicated video, and, like, it's a video editor's dream kind of scenario. So I think, depending on how long that export is, like, let's say it's a 5-hour Hollywood project, then sure, a cooling fan will definitely help because it's got to sustain that export time throughout the entirety. But if it's like an hour-long video, we'll see what the benchmarks are like to see just how narrow of that margin is. But for most people, I think that a MacBook Air should suffice because it's the same speed. It just won't sustain that over the long term.
Yeah, yeah. And then, of course, there's the downsides of, you know, you really can't change anything inside that system, right? We're getting into the world where this is a magic box and it can never be opened.
and that's a valid concern. It's like, for, like, especially business owners and entrepreneurs, it's a concern in the sense of, like, I'm investing a lot into this one device with the knowledge or intent later on that this entire system needs to be swapped out for something else. I can't just, like, marginally upgrade it over time. Yeah. And that's kind of like the appeal of the desktops, the giant Mac Pro Tower. So theoretically, if that transitions over to Apple Silicone, that would be like the professional modular dream.
Yeah.
But in the laptops, I always kind of laugh at the comments a little bit because they're always so concerned. It's like, well, I can't upgrade the RAM. It's like, well, you never could anyways since 2012. Like,
yeah, that's not an iMac.
It wasn't a choice. So why is this different? Like, and, like, the performance benefit of now having less upgradable RAM is definitely, it seems like a con, but until you realize the benefit, which is once the RAM is actually on top of the CPU, it's just that much faster. It doesn't have to waste time traveling across the circuit board into the CPU and then backwards and then to the GPU. It's not doing this weird traffic light map. It's just teleportation speed talking to each other.
I love watching you, like, show the flow of energy through traffic. I've never thought of computers that way. It's just so funny. It's like it's cool to see how your brain works. So when it comes to just, like, overall tech outside of Apple, what are some of the things that you're most, like, fascinated by that are happening just in the general world?
I think, like, everyone is starting to converge on some pretty standardized, like, axioms of technology. So AMD is doing incredible work on the PC side. They're getting gains and leaps and bounds just like Apple, but for PC, because they're using a similar technology kind of strategy, which is to, instead of having one beefy chip that's designed for ultra complex tasks, that's what we refer to as the x86 architecture whenever someone says that, versus ARM. ARM is designed for, like, hey, I'm going to give you a bunch of simple tasks and tell you how to do them so it can execute them more efficiently. Whereas x86 is like, here's a really large, complex task, run it all at the same time. And that's why you'll see, like, Windows machines in, like, complicated NASA-style, like, overbearing Mars missions. And you rarely see, like, a smartphone doing that, right? Because it's not optimized for that language yet. But as we start investing more technology, AMD, Apple, all these companies, they're investing money into this ARM technology. It may get there, but it'll require a fundamental rewrite and a rethink in how we give those instructions to those computers to be able to do something like a Mars mission.
Would you go to Mars?
Ooh. So, like, there's a lot of space shows that I've been watching, like The Expanse and stuff like that. I think I would go to Mars if I could be part of, like, the terraforming crew. I think it'd just be, like, so fun.
Yeah, I'm watching. Unfortunately, you're watching The Expanse. I just watched Raised by Wolves, so I will not be going to any new planets to terraform with androids. It's a terrifying show.
See, like, I think there's, like, a romance to, like, the pioneering aspect. It's like, sure, there's a lot of danger. Like, I might just die on the trip there, but, like, how cool would it be to just be able to go, like, yeah, we just made a barren dust bowl livable. It's kind of like the Wild West.
Oh, it's totally gonna happen. Yeah, if we can make Vegas happen, we can make Mars happen. Dude, that's awesome. And yeah, it's one of those fun things where I'm really enjoying this conversation because it's got that, like, old part of my brain starting to go again. Definitely you're saying things that are way over my head, but hey, I'll go with it. And, like, there's I think so much to consider, and you know, for most people, it's just get a computer and get to work. But I think it's really fun to look at these trends and see where things are going, especially with, like, the fancy new stuff, like flip phones are coming back, and like, you know, who knows what that's gonna all look like, you know, in 50 years. Like, that stuff is all very exciting, and you know, we got holographic wrappers coming back, all sorts of different things. But, you know, when it comes to the stuff that you're creating, what sort of stuff are you working on these days?
So for me, it's taken a little bit of a backseat because obviously we're on shutdown, so it takes a little bit more effort to stay safe. But, like, video production work is something that I love. So to hear Dolby Atmos coming to the new phones and being able to edit it all on a phone and not have to worry about a complicated workflow is just, like...
Have you edited a whole video on a phone before?
So I've never been able to do it because it's like, for me, I'm too frustrated by, like, the tiny little timeline. I need a huge giant computer screen and just, like, let's go, let's move clips all around the screen. Whereas an iPhone, I'm like, it's just too small. So, like, maybe one day.
So I want to see if I can find this in 2016. I think it was 2016. I went to a Daybreaker. Do you know what Daybreaker is?
I've heard of the movie Daybreaker, but I don't know if I know the term Daybreaker.
So there was, let me see if I can find this. I'm so unpopular on YouTube, I can't even find my own channel. Let's see if I can find this. So,
by the way, points to your audience if they know what movie I was referencing.
Is it it's got to be a vampire movie, right?
Oh, it's 100% a vampire movie. I think it was Ethan Hawke.
Oh, for real? That's awesome.
I think even Sam O'Neill might have been in it.
Of course, Sam O'Neill's in that. So there's I'm like picturing the cover of it right now. There was so back in, I want to look at this. It was back in 2016. Yeah. Back in 2016, I went to I was, like, really into video editing and, like, through the iPhone and stuff. And I went to this thing called Daybreaker. And Daybreaker is these morning dance parties that are at 5. They start at 5:45 for yoga, and then they at maybe like 5 a.m. for yoga or whatever. I never went to the yoga, but like 5:45 the dance party starts, and it's literally a rave at 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning. And they have, like, cold brew coffee, and they have, like, just people going crazy and dancing. And they do it in different locations all over the city and all over the world. And I don't know how I got into this stuff, but I was going to these things every month. And one of them was on a boat in a Navy pier. And I decided to film it and I filmed it all on my little iPhone, probably like an iPhone 6, and then brought it back to work that day and didn't work at all. I edited the whole thing on my iPhone 6 on iMovie, and I'll just share the result. Let's take a look here. All right. Having a good morning?
Yeah, how about you?
Good morning all around. About to go to a dance party on a boat.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's gonna be a weird day.
But I do this a lot, like all the time. I thought that just went around community to stage.
Hi Chicago, welcome to Daybreaker. Girls and nachos, girls and nachos, girls and nachos, girls and nachos, say it.
Sus, what'd you think of your first Daybreaker?
Loved it.
So yeah, that's how we do Daybreaker in Chicago. Yeah, buoy and coffee.
Oh my god, that was amazing. And like, just I could like tell all the like techniques that went into that. I'm just like, oh my god, this transition was buttery. This was awesome. This was so smooth. I loved it. I was just like nerding over everything. But that was like so cool.
Thanks, man. All of my laughter just got muted out. But yeah, there's it's funny that you're saying that because all I can see is you stayed at that trumpet part way too long. Oh man. And if you can do that on an iPhone 6 in 2016, I cannot wait to see what we're going to be doing, on these. And I'm excited to get an iPad someday and see what I can do with that because, every time I watch a review, they're like, no one uses the iPad camera. I'm like, I've made tons of videos. You just put it on a tripod and you edit it right on the iPad. It's fantastic. But I don't know. I'm super excited for all the new tech coming out, and I really appreciate you jumping on, man, and talking us through it a little bit. It sounds like the Apple Air is going to be probably the most common way to go for most folks.
Likely.
Yeah. Oh, and June is saying, was that an iPhone? Yep, that was all shot on an iPhone 6, I think 6S maybe.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. We've got a lot of cool stuff coming up. I can't wait. I mean, if only they would have made the webcam 1080p, I think I'd be in heaven. Because otherwise, I'm always just living in the past here. But any last thoughts or things that you want to share about what you're excited about in tech?
I think like the only last thing that I would love people to remember is just like it's so easy to get jaded and to see like year to year improvements as like it's not that great. Like, but remember, at the end of the day, whatever helps enable you to fuel the dreams that you're trying to put out there, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter about whose stock, whose company, whose tech is like better. It's what makes you do better. Like, how do we help you create better? That's all that matters.
Dude, that's inspiring me to get to work on some of the videos that I've got listed on this whiteboard over here that I'm too scared to do. So let's keep in touch. I didn't actually know that you were so into videos, so I want to talk more about that in the future, probably offline or online, either way. And, you know, thanks for jumping in, man. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks.
Cheers. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today for this bit of a different career therapy morning. I hope you all enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you bright and early next week, Monday.
I'm too old for this. Been around this, broken down for way too long. Left my home for this. Story-eyed, it's no surprise. Things went wrong. What was I thinking?